This is Matt from Surf City TCG. Welcome back to my series on how to build a commander deck completely from scratch. We're building this Edgar Markov commander deck. If you didn't catch the previous parts, you can find those in the description below the video. So I'd recommend starting with those. In the last video, we ran a few practice hands and we played our very first game. And if you didn't catch that, go ahead and check it out. But we're going to be analyzing that game at the beginning of this video so we can figure out what changes, if any, we need to make based on that game, and then any other thoughts I had. And also, we'll probably cover in this video the stuff on the notepad file that I kind of added. I was jotting down thoughts as I came across them, including a little bit off camera when I just thought of things. I put it on here, and I just wanted to cover one other thing. Is that when I was actually putting together the deck, I realized I didn't have some of these cards. I know, believe it or not, there are some cards I don't have. I'm working on it, but for now. So I ended up moving those to the sideboard. It was these four, and then putting in something comparable. So I guess we'll start off by taking a look at just kind of a recap of what the deck is looking like right now, just from a big picture perspective. So we've got 43 creatures. I think at some point we had closer to 50, and honestly, although the game went well, I'm thinking that that's the direction we want to go. In the practice hands and in the game, I didn't feel that I was frequently getting the 1, 2, 3 curve that I really wanted. That's going to make this deck really fire on all cylinders. And taking a glance at just the creatures here, we've only got 6 1-drops, and I know that's a lot, but it doesn't really guarantee that we hit one of them on turn 1. We may get another turn 1 play. We've got a lot of other ones, we've got Blade, Skull Clamp, Soul Ring. But even Soul Ring, is not the 1-drop we want in this deck. It's, Authority of the Councils is a good one. Legion's Landing is a good one. This counts as a creature. Sort of, right? It doesn't trigger Edgar, but we do at least get a 1/1. So this is a fine 1-drop. I'm happy to develop this on turn 1. It's not the best, but I think it's pretty good. And then Reconnaissance is not what we want to be playing on turn 1. Just really we don't need it until I'd say at least turn 4 is when it starts to become potentially dangerous to attack. Usually definitely in the first 2 turns, there's always going to be someone open, right? Or someone you can bluff an attack into. Starting on turn 3 and definitely starting on turn 4, it gets harder to attack and our creatures start to become endangered a little when we send them in. So that's when Reconnaissance starts being good. But we really don't need to play this on turn 1. If it's our only play, we'll play it. And it's not bad. It's certainly not bad to just get it out there. It's better than having no 1-drop, but it's not the 1-drop we want. So, and same goes for Vampiric Tutor. We can play it on turn 1. It's certainly going to be fine. We can find something very powerful to set us up for later, depending on what we need in that game. But it's not the play we want to make right away. So I think I want to focus on, we're going to take a look at the game, but I think what I really want to do with these changes, and we're going to play another game after this, and then see if further changes are warranted. But I have some ideas of what I want to do, and a lot of that is going to involve pumping up this creature count a little bit. And we're just going to have to figure out what we can cut to do that. So let's take a look at the curve. This doesn't tell us everything, right? It's telling us permanence versus non-permanence, which is helpful. But as we just saw, there's a lot of permanents that, even though they're 1-drops, are not the ideal 1-drops for us. So this curve is looking great, by the way. I mean, it's still a little heavy on 3s and 4s. That's looking like where we want to shave. In fact, anywhere in this 3 to 6 range, I'd say, is where we want to go. This is an ultra-fast, aggressive deck. And we just want it to really feel that way. 1-drop, 2-drop, 3-drop. If we're not having that start, then we're not doing it right. And we should be mulliganing for hands like that. So, and we should be building the deck so that we can get hands like that more consistently. So what does that mean exactly? Well, let's take a look. I mean, I think the way I want to start off looking at things is I'm going to just skim through all of the non-creature categories to see if there's anything that either in the playtesting or just as I thought about it or having played the first game, something came up and I think it's worth thinking about every single card, especially the non-creatures. If you have time, like, it's worth really thinking about every single card, and even ones you think, like, a lot of times there'll be a card where I'm like, there's no way I would cut this. It's like one of the cards that is like central to this deck, and I would never ever consider cutting it. Take a card like Soul Ring. I don't think we're going to cut Soul Ring, just to be clear, but you might think, like, I don't even need to think about or look at Soul Ring, but in a deck like this, it's something that wouldn't be super unreasonable to cut. Like, honestly, I don't want to play a Soul Ring on turn one. I'd much rather play a Master of Dark Rites, for example. Like, this is such an amazing turn one play, right? Because it allows us to sack the token that we just made for triple black and like develop a 4-drop or 5-drop the following turn. Nuts, right? Killing, so to speak, killing the sacred cow or whatever, however the phrase goes, like, is something that you need to do with your deck sometimes. Nothing is above review. So you should very strongly consider even the most staple-ish cards that you could possibly think of. Just, really look at them under a microscope and say, like, is this doing what I need it to do in this particular deck? So that being said, let's just, we were sorted by mana value, we're grouped by type. We could switch to the types and tags, but I think for this purpose, it's better to keep it with these regular types because we want to probably avoid cutting creatures. I'm still going to look through the creatures and especially the top end of the creatures later, but I want to start here and see what we can potentially cut. And then we can look at the creatures and see what we maybe need to add. And we might look at the types and tags for that purpose. So let's take a very quick glance at the game. It will inform our decisions of what we're going to cut. I'm just going to skim through it really quickly to see if there are any key moments. All right, so for starters, before we even start looking at the game, I want to take a look at the commanders we were up against and see if there's anything to note just based on that. And this is something that you should do every game before you even look at your hand. Make sure you know who your commanders are. This is a mistake I see people make every day on Spell Table. It'll be halfway through the game and someone's like, what does that card do? I'm like, that's my commander. And they're like, okay, what does it do? I'm like, how could you possibly be asking that question? It almost offends me when people ask that because it tells me that you really just don't give a shit. Like, you're not playing to your potential. You don't care. You haven't even read what my commander does. Like, I'm reading commanders before I even look at my hand because this is a critical piece of information to decide what you need in that particular game. So if you don't do that, try to start doing it. It's, if you want to get better at Magic, you have to put in a little bit of effort. And that's just the truth. It's a tough game. So if you just want to have fun and play, that's fine too. But I don't know if you'd be watching my videos if you're just wanting to have fun and play Magic because they're a little in depth. All right, so we've got OG Galta, Primal Hunger, Big Stompy Green. We know what we're going to get with a deck like this. It's going to be big creatures and lots of them, lots of trample. We can outrace a deck like this. That is exactly what we need to do. We can't outpower a deck like this. It's going to stomp us to death if it has enough time. So that's just something to keep in mind. If they get a very explosive, rampy start, that could be very scary for us. But I'd say in general, they're going to have a hard time being a mono green deck. Their weaknesses are removal, right? Especially creature removal. So they're going to have a hard time dealing with our board, which goes very wide, when they are going very tall. Yes, they'll have one or two giant blockers, but when we've got 10 2/2s, what are they going to do except just die? Death by 1,000 stings is the way to kill Eagles to Primal Hunger. All right, Clement is a potentially very scary commander, and I know this player. He's a member of my real life pod, so I'm familiar. I had the benefit of being familiar with his deck list, but this is still a very powerful and synergistic strategy. If it and any deck that involves blue, there can be some tricks. So a little bit of a grab bag of what to expect with a commander like this. It could be a more casual deck. It could be an ultra synergistic deck that can just pop off. And then lastly, Selvala. I know Jazz as well, and I've played against this deck numerous times, actually helped him build it. So I'm, again, at an advantage knowing what these decks were but that won't always be the case. But you can like do your best to figure out what you might be coming up against when you read Selvala. So what does her ability do? Everyone reveals the top. Selvala player gets a green mana for each non-land revealed and gains 1 life for each non-land revealed, and then everyone draws that card. So sort of a group hug effect, but really it's a powerful mana and draw engine, and there's probably going to be some life gain synergy thrown in. So pretty similar to a Galta deck, I'd say, like just looking to burst a bunch of mana like green decks tend to do, and then play a bunch of big threats. So I think in general, when I see these 3 commanders, I would expect to see a lot of creatures. The problems that I'm going to have to deal with are primarily going to be creature based. So we're not necessarily ultra well equipped for that. I think we have a very small amount of removal as the build currently stands. So what this means to me is that if we draw our removal, we should really hold it until a threat is absolutely existential. Like we can't possibly deal with this thing being on the board, and that should be what we use our removal on. That's my analysis. Let's get into and take a look at the first hand, see what... I'm going to leave it on mute. I don't think we need to hear what's going on in the game, but like I said, it's in the last video. Feel free to watch that game. It was a good one. All right, so this was our opener. I think we kept. It seems like a pretty good hand, right? We've got land, triple land, 2-drop. 1-drop Skull Clamp is not the best, but it's definitely not bad. Having a Skull Clamp out means that we're not going to be want for advantage in this game. So let's just skim through. I'm going to skip ahead pretty rapidly. Right away, we had a Spore Frog on board. 1 Spore Frog is not a problem, but it usually indicates some sort of recursion. I suspect that's not necessarily the case with this particular deck, just because I know it. But normally when you see Spore Frog, it's in a like Marin of Clan Meltoth deck or a Muldrotha the Gravetide deck, where they're just going to be replaying it. So what that means to us is we better have a way to deal non-combat damage, just in case that is a recurring thing that we can't deal with, because we don't really have any graveyard hate. We have maybe 1 thing that affects graveyards, right? Like if I switch over to types and tags, just in case I was curious, this is why, and one of the reasons types and tags can be great, scroll to where graveyard hate would be, see that there is none, and be like, uh-oh, yeah, we had 1 thing and I cut it. And this wouldn't even deal with that, right? It causes it to die. I guess like it would deal with it. If this was in play and Spore Frog would be sacked, then it would get exiled. And I don't think they could really do anything about it. So if we found that that was a problem in this game, it might be worth considering adding that back or adding in other pieces that could slow down a graveyard deck. But I think in general, graveyard decks we're going to be able to deal with. And even if like they had a recurring Spore Frog, I think even in this game, like we're going to have ways to deal damage on attacks. We have Impact Tremors effects. We have Perforos. We've got loss of life stuff that triggers on attack. The Malakir Blood Witch. We have a lot of ways to have reach, so to speak, and to deal with a threat like this. But still a worrisome card to see early game for sure. And then the Up the Beanstalk, like, not a big deal. It's just another value engine that we're expecting to be able to outrace. It's a great card, no question, but this just means like we got to race that, because if it just sits on the board and accrues value, then we're in trouble. I think I decided not to play the Skull Clamp and develop the Shadowy Backstreet instead. All right, so Vol is out on turn 2. He ramped it out with an elf, so that means we're going to be drawing some cards. Kalta plays Kodama's Reach, so as expected, he's ramping. Clement is ramping. Shocker. Bunch of green decks. We develop Yahenni. The Markov Baron comes through clutch on this turn. We really had an explosive start. That Markov Baron was as good, if not better, than I expected. We were able to play it for free pretty much, right? I had 2, and we didn't even have a 1-drop. So imagine if we had a 1-drop. Also, we'd play Yahenni and have 6 creatures on board. We could potentially convoke out a 6-mana card if we had such a thing in our deck. But in this case, I was able to play Yahenni, make a vampire, still get the attack in with the Sanguine Siphoner, and then tap all 3 of the other guys to convoke out the Markov Baron, which is like Anthem effect, so we even got an extra point of damage. So very, very strong start here. But it is on this turn, especially, that we're very susceptible to a board wipe. So thankfully, no one played like any removal this game, but if they had, this game would have been a little bit tougher. But we had the Champion of Dusk to refill our hand. We had Skull Clamp. Like, this was a great game. Like, for us, we drew well. Just everything came out Millhouse, so to speak. So at this point, everyone's kind of freaked out because it's turn 3 and I've got 6 things on board, which is not unreasonable. Jazz parlays. We draw a Yawgmoth, which is crazy good. We didn't even ever end up having time to play it because we just had so many other good things to do. But man, good insurance policy to have in hand for sure. Jazz develops an Asceticism, which is like very good card, but just awful against our deck. It's, it gives all of his stuff hexproof and allows it to regenerate. The least helpful thing against a swarm deck like this. An inauspicious start for our opponents, to be sure. Keyshawn plays Karametra's Acolyte, which is a very, powerful ramp piece, but again, a slow start, and like, look at our board. It's scary. And look at our hand. Boy, a pair of insane 4-drops here with Sanctum Seeker and Roaming Throne, which pretty much end the game. We're able to like knock someone down, Jazz down from, started the turn at 38, ended at 18. Wow. So we did 20 damage to him on turn 4. Absolutely crazy. And he's gaining life from all these parlays too. I put in a note here explaining what I explained earlier in the video, that I had subbed some stuff out because astute or careful viewers would know that like Vampire Gourmand is not a card that I ended up in the 100 when I ended the video, so I just put in this note to explain in case you were wondering. Jazz develops Sting, which we don't care about. It just means we're going to draw even more cards. But, it's scary. Sting is really, really good. It's going to untap Selvala every turn. He can make a lot of mana. He's the reason I ended up killing him pretty much in cold blood, like over the last couple turns, and this turn coming up, is because he was showing to be the biggest threat. And I also know his deck's really good, and it can be quite explosive. As you can see, he developed an Explume Ancient right after this, and we're pretty much the arch enemy at this point. Keyshawn, I knew had a Naturalize in hand because he had revealed it off parlay. I was trying to get him to use it on the Explume Ancient, and he's like, no, I don't think so. Like, they knew. Which is the right thing to do. Like, you should you should never make a deal with me, as players who have played with me frequently enough or want to tell you. And they're not wrong. So he lets Jazz keep the next bloom, and I'm like, okay, well, I'll have to just kill you then. So that's what I did. Keyshawn develops some useless thing because he wants the devotion, but like, it's not going to help here. He's got a good start here. If he had like 2 more turns, he could probably explode and just like wreck us, but he doesn't have 2 more turns because, man, look at our hand. And no one is removing anything. Like, if someone could have exiled Blood Artist or dealt with the Sanctum Seeker even better, they could have possibly had a chance here, but everyone's just kind of developing their own game plan. And when we're in a state like that, that's where a deck like this thrives. We're just way faster, and we drew a Soul Ring to top things off. So yeah, the Roaming Throne seals the deal. We're able to just basically murder 2 players this turn. And then it's just a 1-on-1 Beaver sack. I did a lot in combat, right? Got them down to under 20 each. And then I just used the Blood Artist in combination with the Henny to sack a bunch of dudes and ping each of them for 2 per sack to knock them both out. So then it's just me versus Zach. I've got a small board, but I'm at 86. So I'm feeling good about my odds. And we've got the Rally of the Ancestors to kind of like bring everything back and try to end it. But Zach, he stutters us a little bit because he's got a Runaway Together, and he times it absolutely perfectly. Zach is a really good player. He made a very timely and powerful play that gave him a whole extra turn, which definitely could have mattered. Like, he had the 20-toed toad. He had the, whatever the hell that thing is called, the Frizzard. He could have like easily set up a situation where he was able to win with the 20-toed toad win con. So I was a little worried, actually. And maybe I should have given more thought to killing him versus killing like maybe Keyshawn, but I did what I did and it ended up working out. But I should have maybe perhaps realized that like this alternate win con when we're at such a high life total might be the biggest threat to me versus a green stompy deck that is going to be able to hit us for chunks, but not 80, right? So maybe I made the wrong decision there, but I did what I did. It worked out. That doesn't mean it was the right decision, but that's what happened. So yeah, there's not really that much more to see here. So I'm going to switch back to types, and we're going to do what I said earlier, which is I want to look at all of the non-creature cards and really examine them closely and see if we need them, because I do want to bolster the creature count a little bit and get it closer to something like 50 plus. What I'm going to do, I'm going to move all this stuff out of sideboard for now, because I want to use the sideboard. So I'm just going to put this stuff in considering, and we're going to end up going through considering again later. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to move anything where I'm not 100% on it, I'm going to put it in the sideboard. So I talked about this strategy for making cuts a couple of videos ago, but this is I find to be a very effective way to make cuts when you're having trouble deciding what to cut, is move everything that you're not 110% on, put it in the sideboard, add all the stuff you absolutely need, and do it in like a draft pick order. All right, so Pact of the Serpent, I think I'm 110% happy with this card. I'm going to stop saying that because I don't like when people say that actually, so I shouldn't say it. I'm 100% happy with this, even though I haven't played it yet. I think this is the kind of card draw that we really want in this deck. And if we open with a 1-drop, 2-drop, I'm very happy to play this on turn 3 and draw 4 cards, because it means we're not overextending into a board wipe. It slows us down a little bit, but it also refills our hand and makes sure that we have like some impactful plays the following turns. All right, Sundering Eruption, I think, is currently the only piece of land destruction we're sitting on, and I definitely don't want to have no land destruction. What we could do is play a strip mine or a wasteland, or even a demolition field. I think I'd prefer one of the latter because they're free. Yes, they knock us down a land, and they're colorless, so that's a little tough for us. I like Sundering Eruption. Let's stick with that for now. Living Death. Am I 100% on this? I think so. Living Death is just almost always blowout. And in a deck where we anticipate running 50 creatures, I just don't ever see that changing. Olivia's Wrath, I haven't gotten a chance to test this yet, but I don't see how this is not just a definite keep. Landing this on turn 5 when we've got full board is just game winning. And even if it's like not wiping everything, just playing a board wipe that's hitting almost everything that isn't ours is just going to be really, really strong. When it comes to the protectors, Clever and Teferi's Protection, I think we want both, but if I were to cut one, it's probably going to be Teferi's Protection, because Clever Concealment is going to be cheaper usually. I would say like we're probably going to, on average, have 2 untapped creatures. So that means that this can cost 2 or less. T-Pro is always going to be 3. It's hard for us to have 3 up. Actually, like, could see cutting Teferi's Protection in a deck like this, because we don't really ever want to have 3 mana. Excepting in like the cases where we have developed a strong start and we're like, okay, we're winning this board right now. I don't need to play anymore. I'm just going to hold up Teferi's Protection. That's a good way to play T-Pro, but I think let's try without it. Clever Concealment, I love. I don't want to cut that. Path to Exile. Let's put it in the maybes. I think we want this, but it's possible that we want, in fact, I want to add now. Sorry, I'm just trying to make sure that this stays focused. But you know, this is how I build decks. Like, as I come across stuff, I think of things. So I hate to jump around, but like, I have to. So what I'm going to do, in case you didn't see in previous videos, I had been ordering all my searches in Scryfall Search, and you know, this is Moxfield, but it uses Scryfall to do its searching. And I had already set up a global syntax to add this term to all of my searches. So I'm not going to be typing this in, but it is going to default to this. And what it means is all the results that we find are going to be ordered in terms of what the results are in EDHREC. So the highest population is first, sorted to the lowest. So it's going to show us the most popular cards first, all the way down to the least popular. But what I want to see is stuff with the word convoke. I kind of think we just want to look at all the convoke stuff because it seems really good in this deck. In fact, I think Benny Brax is in our considering, but I think we might want him. Drawing and being able to play that Markov Baron, that game for free basically on turn 3, that was such a powerful tempo play. And man, Benny Brax is going to be good for us. Let's just get him in there. He's basically, we're always going to need a white because, well, unless we've got a white creature, but the tokens we make are black, right? So we can't ever pay his full cost like we can with the Markov Baron, but if we can get him down for like 1 white and then he draws a card, that seems worth playing a non-vampire because he replaces himself at minimum. Even if he draws no other cards, he's replacing himself almost certainly, right? Because we played a vampire that turn. If we play a 1-drop, his cost is reduced by 2. Let's say we have 2 mana, right? Normally, you can't play a 4-mana spell with only 2 mana, right? But with Benny Brax and with Edgar, let's say we had a 1-drop white vampire and we had a 1-drop black vampire. If we played both of those, we're going to be making 2 1/1s with Edgar, and we have those 2 that we played. All of a sudden, we've got 4 creatures, and we can play Benny Brax for free. So not only do we get a 4-drop for free, then we get also the 2 1-drops that we played, and then Benny Brax replaces himself because we made a token that turn. And then, like, if we happen to have a Smothering Tithe in play, which we're not playing, so that would seem unlikely, but if we were, Benny Brax is nuts with Smothering Tithe. So anyway, let's look for other Convoke stuff, because Convoke actually seems very powerful in this deck. So let's just take a look at all the Convoke stuff and see what we've got. All right, City on Fire is too much. We don't want that. Don't care for this. Hoarding Broodlord is interesting, but it's 8 mana. So I don't think so. Lethal Scheme is one that I'm considering because it's going to be cheap. I just wonder if it's better than something like Path to Exile, or if we potentially want both. It's already in considering. I think we'll just leave it there for now. I'm not seeing anything else like necessarily amazing that we just absolutely need. This is a vampire, but it's 8 mana, so gives all of our other vampires Exalted, but that only affects like us attacking alone with things. That doesn't really help. So I don't think this is good enough. I am going to put it in considering though, because it's a vampire. Yeah, I don't think we want any of this other stuff, so that's okay. I'm glad we checked. I think it was worth taking a look. All right, so I like Clever Concealment. I like Path. Vampiric Tutor, I like. I mean, I'm not running many tutors in here, but this one's on theme, so we'll keep it. Rally looks great. It worked just like I expected it to that game. It happened to get, stopped a little bit by something that happened, but that doesn't mean it wasn't going to be a game winner for us. So very happy with the performance of this card. Blade is amazing. Skull Clamp, amazing. Soul Ring. I think Soul Ring is Argent Deus, still want to test it, haven't drawn it. Phyrexian Altar, I don't think we need this necessarily. Let's put it in sideboard. One Ring, yes. Banner of Kinship, definitely. I'm still on the Bold Citadel train. I at least want to test it. Authority of the Consuls. I don't know if we need this. My original thought was it's a 1-drop. It slows our opponents down. It lets us get in for attacks. How much trample and evasion stuff do we have? Only 3 pieces. I'm on the fence about it, so I'm going to put it in the sideboard. I'm going to stick with what I said. Legion's Landing's good. Reconnaissance. Reconnaissance is definitely good. Is it 100%er? I don't think it's 100%. I mean, I'm thinking about it, so Static Prison I'm very happy with, or at least want to test it. Is blind obedience better, worse, or the same than authority? So authority is 1 mana less, which is not insignificant. That's a big deal. But, and it, makes artifacts come in tap. That slows opponents down. The extort can help us. I still think it's a maybe. Let's put it in sideboard. Impact tremors. I think so. If we play this on turn 2 instead of a 2-drop, I mean, if we play it on turn 2, it's excellent, right? Because we're going to play. It'd be interesting. I'm not going to do it, but it'd be interesting to go back and count how many creatures I played that game. I may be able to figure it out, right? I didn't play a 1-drop. I played a 2-drop. I played a 3-drop, 2 3-drops, so that's 3 creatures. And then I played like maybe like a couple 2-drops or something. So it's 5, and then a couple 4-drops, 6, 7. And then we played Rally the Ancestors, which brought back some creatures. So that's like 11, maybe 10 or 11 creatures that I had ETB, plus the 10 or 11 that Edgar made. So, this would have dealt 20 damage if we had it out the whole time. But that also means we're not developing a 2-drop. So I think it's worth it. That's 20 damage per player. So that means it's dealing 60 damage. That seems quite good. Yeah, I don't think we want to cut that. As crazy as it may sound, I might prefer to cut something like Purphoros or Furphoros instead. But I'm just not sure about any of those decisions. So I think we're going to leave all of those for now because I haven't drawn any of them. I haven't gotten to test them. So we need to get more reps in with the game, with the deck. All right, Black Market Connections is insane. I would never cut it. If you haven't played with this card, you're missing out. War Leader's Call, definitely not. So we got 5 cards out, but I also added Benny Brax. So that's a fine start. Let's go ahead and look at the notepad file now. Vampires with Flash. Okay. I don't remember why I was thinking to do that. I guess because we were looking at Caretaker's Talent and also stuff like Benny Brax, which triggers on us making a token on any turn. So I don't really think that's that important, but let's just take a look anyway so I can show you guys how you would search for something like that. So we're going to look for type vampire, and we're going to look for Flash. Let's see what we can find. All right, there are 3 vampires with Flash. Blood Crazed Paladin. Interesting. That does not seem good enough. Destroy creatures dealt damage. No. All right, so none of that stuff is anything that I care about. So we've checked that one off. Changelings. That's a good one we should check for. It's like, I added this because it was in place of one of the ones that I cut because I didn't have it yet. But I think this card is definitely great in this deck. It's a 1 mana, 1/1 unblockable vampire. So, yes, please. So let's look for Changeling. All right, got it. Okay, we don't want non-creatures probably. So let's just do type creature. All right, mirror entity. It's actually not crazy. I don't love cards like this because like your opponents know you have it, so they can do everything to set up for kind of wrecking you. So I don't like a card like this for that reason. Korean Mauler is a card that always surprises me how good it ends up playing, but this isn't the deck for it. Bloodline Pretender. So enters as a vampire. Whenever another vampire enters, this gets a +1 counter. Okay, so that's not good enough. If it gave the one entering a +1 counter, I think there is one like that. Metallic Mimic? Still, I don't know if we play that. It's an artifact, so it's just like even more vulnerable than an artifact creature. Same reason that I don't want to play this. I think there are probably we should probably just look for 1-drop vampires These things all look pretty bad. 3-1 vampire for 2? No. Alright, we're into the dregs now. Check another one off the list. Alright, Kindred Synergy cards. So, before I forget, let's just look for 1-drop vampires. So let's do type, vampire, mana value, 1. Let's just do mana value less than 2. This way it'll be 1 and 0. I don't think there'll be any zeros, but that's why we catch them. Look at that. We already have the 4 best ones. Yeah, good job. All right, this thing is in considering. What does this guy do? Pings everyone. We make a blood. This deals 1 to each opponent on attack. Probably not good enough, but let's just put it in considering anyway. This is the same, but it's a 1-1 instead of a 1-2. All our vampires have madness. Okay, so if we're playing blood theme, this is cool. Plus this is a 2-1 for 1. No. 1-1 menace, discard a card, sack him to draw a card. Yikes, I don't think so. Right, the rest of the stuff looks pretty bad. Ooh, this is a white one, so is this one. Yeah, this is bad. That's real bad. Okay, yeah, this stuff sucks. Actually, what is this one? No. Alright, so forget all that. Kindred Synergy cards. Okay, so I'm not sure how to look for these, so I'm going to open up Tagger, and we'll find one we know, like Herald's Horn. And let's look at the tags. Tribal Choose. Okay, so I think what this means is, well, let's look for one that we're playing already. Markov Baron, right? That's one. So we have Tribal Choose. Oh, Baron. I'm guessing it's going to be Tribal Vampire, but let's just check anyway. Tribal Vampire. Yeah. Okay, cool. So let's just put both. So I'm going to put OTAG, Tribal Choose, or OTAG, Tribal Vampire. And then a Synergy Vampire thing. Let's just add it. So now we'll get all 3 of these. All right. We don't want Herald's Horn. Don't want those. Don't. No. No. Okay, what does this do? So when it enters, we choose a type. I think Edgar triggers on cast, right? Whenever you cast, yeah. So we wouldn't get the 1-1 off him. Then all of our vampires enter with an additional 1-1 counter. I don't think so. Let's put in considering though. Seems decent. This is a lord, but it's colorless. We don't need that. This is another like one-sided board wipe. Let's put this in considering. For only 4 mana instead of 5, not bad. Even though it's only -3/-3, like that could be pretty good for us. All right, this gives all of our stuff evasion. I don't think we want to spend a card on that, but it's an interesting option. Etchings. No. See, like, we're not really finding anything, and that's good. Like, it makes me feel good that, like, the original searches we did are, and we already looked for haste before our combats. Yeah, I'm feeling like we caught a lot of this stuff. We did this. We did that. Sack outlets. I don't feel like we need more. We got all the good ones. Token dollars. Let's leave this stuff for now. Okay. Extra combats. So I don't remember how to look for that. So I'm just going to go to handy old Scryfall Dagger. But I do need to know the name of one extra combat spell. Come on, Matt. Relentless Assault. Extra combat phase. Yes, that's the one we want. Alright, so let's do OTAG. We have to add the hyphens. Alright. Aurelia's too heavy. Karlach is like one of the best ones, but he's not a vampire, so no, this is just a straight 4 mana one for a whole board. This might be like the one we want. Let's put it in the sideboard. Seize the Day is more of a like Voltron one, but it's really good because it's got flashback, just not for this deck. Alright, so for 4 mana, untap all creatures. Oh, this is way better than Relentless Assault, right? So even if we ignore the bottom 2 modes, we're paying the same cost. It's an instant. Untap all creatures you control instead of the Relentless is all creatures that attacked. Yes, this is just a strict upgrade. Wow, I don't know if I realized that. I knew this card was good, but man. So for 4 mana, we get the exact same effect as Relentless Assault, right? Am I missing something? Let me know in the comments. And we could pay an extra 2 to give everything +1/+0 on first strike. That seems very good. And then we could pay 1 to... We could just play this for double red, attack someone with 6 creatures and make 6 treasures. Oh, they come in tapped. Freaking wizards. It's good that they nerf treasures a little bit, but man, that would be so good. Wow, that's better than I realized. Overpowering attack is not good for this deck, but extremely good card. I don't think we want this. This is a great card, but again, not for this deck because it's an aura, it gives something haste. We don't care about that. I don't think we're going to get to Delirium. Otherwise, this could be really good. Ooh, a new one. After this main phase, there are 2 additional combat phases. Ooh, wow, that's pretty sick. And this one's free, but we have to pitch 2 red cards. Yeah, not going to happen. All right, I'm happy with that. So that's done. Token builders. Based on the games that we played, I don't think that's where we want to be. Hireling Facebreaker. Let's go ahead and look at these. I'm going to switch over to types and tags because we know this stuff's not going to be tagged. Okay, so let's just tag this so it's out of the way. Okay, so Facebreaker is a 2. These are both not vampires, so they have to be really good, right? This is a 2/3 with Menace. So if we make a 1 and 2 drop, this is a beautiful turn 3 because we can send we have 4 creatures on board, presumably. If we can get into all 3 players, the way this works, it's a little confusing, but whenever 1 or more creatures, so if it said whenever a creature deals damage, you make a treasure, then you make a treasure for every creature that hits. But in this case, you can only get 1, right? Well, not exactly. You can get 1 per player that you hit. So whenever 1 or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, create a treasure. So if you were to deal combat damage to 3 different players, you can make 3 treasures. So that's very important to know for this card and for Grim Hireling, which is pretty much the same, except you make 2 treasures per player you hit. And it's got this very nice removal tacked onto it. I think we might want both of these. And I think if we're adding both of these, we care even more about like really making sure our 1 and 2 mana slots are very populated. So let's just put these both in. And I think I want to try them. Okay, so this is treasure, and it's basically a draw engine. This is treasure and removal. Like, honestly, if you play a Grim Hireling and hit 3 different players, it's hard to lose that game because you make 6 treasures. You can maybe sack a couple of them to his ability to like snipe some annoying creature, and then it's open and shut after that because like if they don't deal with this, you're just making so many treasures and it's just insurmountable in a lot of cases. The more I'm thinking about Delny, I was thinking about this earlier, and just since I'm seeing it right now, I think I want to remove it because we just have a lot of pump effects, and I don't know if it's always going to be as successful as we need it to be. This has no tags that are that relevant, so when that comes up, I usually just put like evasive attacker or beat down or something like that. Okay, this one, just put this one counter, slug, and attack outlet, draw. Let's check the notepad again. We hit flat Tithe. So I love Tithe. If you're not familiar, Tithe is a reserve list card, so it's a little expensive. Kind of a lot expensive, actually. But it's very, very powerful card. So for 1 way, you get to search for a plains. But if you control fewer lands than an opponent, you get to search for 2 plains and put them into your hand for just a single white instant. So as long as you're not going first, then you're pretty easily going to get to draw 2. They're both land, sure, but you draw 2 for just 1 white. You do have to give up your 1 drop to play this, so I'm not sure if we want it for that reason, but normally this is just like you can cut a land for it. As long as you have enough white, that means you can keep a one lander with Tithe, and it's just really good. I think we don't want it because we really want to focus on one drops, but very, very good card. Underrated. So we covered that. Bloodghast. Let's look at Bloodghast. I guess it's a vampire. Double black for a 2/1. It can't block. It has haste if someone's at 10 or less. That's kind of nice. And then on landfall, we can bring it back. That seems pretty good. Let's try it. Mob Rule. I think I already had Mob Rule in considering. I did. Mob Rule is really an excellent card. It's especially good in this deck because normally you want to pick that first mode, right? Where you're taking all the big stuff and you're just smashing people with it. But actually, the smaller mode is really nice in this deck because, a lot of times we're going to have a huge board. And like, if we leave them with a couple huge blockers, we care a lot more about like removing a bunch of chump blockers. For that reason, I might even consider playing some sort of like one-sided board wipe that does 1 damage. Something like In the Festivities might be actually an okay card in this deck, just for its purpose of like 1 red, we can do 1 damage to each opponent and each creature they control. That could be huge, especially people are going to be used to us attacking into them and not worrying about it, and they won't expect a trick like this. So they might be happy to block, with their precious 3/3. They might block a 2/2 we're sending at them because we've done it a bunch of times before. We're just like, I'm sending my 2-drop, and I know you're going to block it, but I just need to get through with this other stuff, right? And then you hit them with an End the Festivities and wipe their blockers and wipe a bunch of other incidental stuff. I don't think this is crazy. Let's just leave it here for now. I'm not sure. Let's put it in the sideboard. All right, so we've got the creatures up to 46. We're at 99 right now. I think the land count is okay. I don't know. We might go down like 1 more, especially if we... What is our average mana value right now? So the curve is still looking great. It's just like, again, getting some of these numbers down would be nice, but really it's just getting this up, I think. We need more 1-drops is really the thing. We've got a lot of 2s. Our 2s are primarily creatures, right? This Rally the Ancestors is not a 2. Our 2s are looking good. Our 3s are... So 13 creatures, 12 creatures, 11 creatures. Yeah, like this is nice. The 4s could come down a little. Purphrose is just too good. What about Elenda? Is Elenda good enough? I think so. Yeah, this is probably too cute. Okay, so what ones do we have in considering? We have Vesper Sentinel, which is never a unreasonable choice. It's not a vampire, but man, it's gonna pull its weight, This is a 1/2 that can get some counters. That doesn't seem great. What is the best 1-drop that we're not playing? It's definitely this one. I just don't have it yet. But let's just get it in there. I might just proxy it for this game or something. I don't know if we want this guy. I'd much rather have a 1/2 than a 2/1. Even though this is an aggressive deck, it's just like so much easier to get through with a 1/2. Like they can't block with a 1/1. But if you send a 2/1 into their random 1/1, it's a lot scarier. Oh yeah, this one I don't have yet either, but this is definitely one we want in the deck. And that gets us to 100. This guy seems fine. Meh. And this, okay. So, I don't hate this. Let's run just a couple practice hands. All right, pause the video, decide, do you keep this one? I'd love to, but it's too risky. Don't keep a hand like this, especially on your first 7. All right, pause it. Do you keep this hand? Heck yeah, this hand looks excellent. Not just because of Soul Ring. In fact, do we even care about Soul Ring? I'm just totally leaning towards cutting it, but it's going to be good in this hand for sure. Draw. What do we do here? We've got this guy we could play, or we could play Soul Ring, but Soul Ring allows us to develop Grim Hireling next turn. I think we play Grim Hireling on turn 3 by dropping Soul Ring, assuming we draw a land. Yeah, that would be nuts. So we play this, we grab bad lands to make black-red, play this, make a dude. Next turn. Nice, Phyrexian Tower is even better. We even play Grim Hireling this turn. that would be dumb. We'd have to sack this vampire to do that, so I don't think that's what we want to do. Oh, we can't play Socialite. That's sad. Whatever. I guess we just develop the Soul Ring now, and then play... We waste a mana, but who cares? I guess we play the Conquistador. By the way, like, don't expect to ever get the tokens off this guy. It'll happen occasionally, but most of the time people will not give it to you. All right, next turn. Oh, baby. We can't actually play this right now. Well, we could. We'd have to sack a vampire, so we would dome everyone for 5. I don't think we want to do that. We just play the Grimarling, and, like, how good is this, right? Like, we've got 4. This land makes black, so we go black. I guess we just leave up the tower. Play Hireling. Send, send, send. Maybe one dies, but we make 6 treasures. And then hope we don't get board wiped, because we're just going to run out of gas. I mean, we have this that could draw us cards if we need to. It's just, this is looking good. All right, pause it. You keep this hand. Triple land. 2-drop. Just a 2-drop. We can play it. We've got the double black. I don't think so. If we had a fetch, I might keep, because then we can grab a surveil land, but we don't. So let's toss it. All right, pause it. Tell me, do you keep this hand? I think this is keep on second 7. It's obviously risky. However, we can play Benny Brax next turn, right? Because we go this, 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 or whatever. We play like this one first, I guess. But still make vampire. And then next turn, or even like, let's say we're not drawing. Even if we don't draw land, we go Denizen, make another guy. Oh, we have no white. I see. Well, this is a little risky, but whatever, let's go for it. We draw 2. We got there. Good hand. Next. All right, how about this one? First 7. I don't think we risk on a 1-lander on our first 7. This hand's, man, if we had the land, this hand looks absolutely incredible, but hands with no land usually look good because they're full of gas. Let's look at our second 7. All right, pause it. Are you keeping this one? Yeah, on our second 7, I think we keep this. We've got a surveil land we could start off with, or we could just draw a 1-drop. Easy. 1-drop, make a guy. Yeah, this hand plays itself. We don't need to do any more practice. This deck is amazingly perfect, and let's go crush some fools.